The markets are open on this Monday. Let's go find out where they're headed so far. Now, last night on the overnight trade, this corn market was down about 2 pennies. This morning here at the open, corn is just kind of drifting along here. Let's see where it's at. Down half. Yep, so it's drifting about the same direction it was last night on the overnight trade. Down a quarter now on the December contract, 397.5. But the high in this contract is 402.5. Look all the way out to July corn. We're down 3/4 at 415 3/4. On to the soybean market. November up 1 3/4 at 937 3/4. The July is up 2 pennies. In the wheat market for December, Chicago up 1 3/4, 509 3/4. The new crop July up 1 1/2 at 523 3/4. December Kansas City wheat up a nickel and a half at 425. In July up 3 3/4 at 454 1/2. Dewey Strickler is here with us. He's with Ag Watch Market Advisors in Franklin, Kentucky. Good morning, Dewey. We're off to a little bit of a stronger start. Everything except the corn. Does that surprise you after we had a 15-cent run up on Friday?
Well, I guess it shouldn't surprise you. 15 cents in one day is a pretty good move up on corn here. The thing that's really bothering corn here right now, and that is we have horrendous exports. I think what has given us a little support on Friday was the fact that we do have 1 to 2 feet of snow that's been dumped in the upper Midwest. It's going to cause some lodging and so forth, and I think the trade, does expect we're going to be looking at yields are going to be cut back somewhat here. It's just a matter of how much.
Dewey, I'd like to get your insight and your opinion on those exports because we've talked a lot about the anemic, if I can use that term, exports over here for the corn. Do you attribute that to the strong dollar, or is there something else at work here that's just causing these exports to lag behind so bad?
Yeah, there is. If you go back and look at our, say, global export share here, in 2017, we commanded 41% of the global export share here in corn. That is now 29%. You have seen, of course, increase in Argentina. You've seen an increase in Brazil. You've also seen a pretty good increase in the Ukraine. So, long story short, the U.S. is sort of losing its kingdom here as far as corn is concerned. We're facing a lot of competition, similar to what we have looked at in wheat.
Well, and also similar to what we're starting to see with the soybeans. We used to export about half of our soybean crop, but it sounds like this year South America may try to increase their soybean crop again, and they may become the new world leader in exports.
That's exactly right. We're seeing some of the dynamics in agriculture are changing here, and some are very subtle, some are not.
So, Dewey, as an ag advisor, then, what advice do you have for producers when we're faced with this kind of an issue here?
You better learn how to market your grain.
Really? Yep. Well, that's been the mantra for quite some time here for a little bit. Dewey, we'll take a break and we'll come back and we'll visit with you about the opening of what's going on over the livestock trade. That's straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. We'll pick up on our conversation with Dewey Strickler here in just a moment. But first, the opening at the livestock trade. And we finished the day stronger for the live cattle market on Friday. Then we had some higher cash trade over the weekend, and this morning, we've got the October fats up 52 at 109.97, knocking on the door of 110. The December up 42 at 112.58. The February trading at 118.67. The feeder cattle market was kind of watching what was going on with the corn. We had a few of the contracts higher, so we called this market mixed on Friday. This morning, we've got November up 63 at 144.88, January up 55 at 141.03, and the March up 63. Over in the hog complex, and this is now that we have a partial agreement with China, December hogs down 25 at 69.35, February down 15 at 76.90, and the April down 30 at 82.67. Back to the cattle market. Dewey, we had stronger cash. My goodness, this cash just kind of seems to be setting the pace so far in this cattle market.
Right now, technically, I would be concerned about the cattle market here. I started looking for a top last week. We haven't quite done it, but we're just barely inching our way up here. And I could see not the cash, but the cattle market here breaking back about $3 or $4 basis the December futures at some point here. So we're starting to see a little bit of a labored move up.
Yeah. What about the funds? Are they starting to kind of take a closer look at this protein complex, do you think?
Well, the funds have been long, and I would say that the funds are starting to get a little bit leery, a little bit cautious here. They're going to start taking some protection. I would expect to see a little liquidation begin.
Okay. And let's talk about the hog complex this morning and how it's gotten started this morning. A little bit weaker over here.
Yeah, it is, but I tell you what, I feel stronger about the hogs than I do the cattle here right now at this point. Yeah, we're going to start seeing some export business. Shipments are going to go here to China. Trade is expecting that here, but technically the hog market looks pretty good. I think in the D's contract, if we can move above the 73, we might see it go up to about 77.
Is there still a powder keg underneath this hog market if we would finally get some real true trade going with China? Because I was reading a report this morning that their pork prices have jumped anywhere from 70 to 80%. They're still running. They still have African swine fever as an issue. They just had another case over the weekend.
Yeah, that's right. Just like you said, we're going to have to start seeing some real true trade begin to develop.
Hey, before we wrap up over here in the livestock segment, I want to go back over here to the feeders. You know, they were pretty resilient in the face of 15-cent higher corn there on Friday. Were you impressed with that?
Well, yeah, a little bit here, but I think the feeders are a lot like the fat cattle here. I think we're in the process of trying to put a top in. You might get your November maybe up around here, the 146 area, but I think after that we're going to be looking for a drop back down into the 140.
Okay. Dewey, thank you so much. Always great to visit with you. Let's recap where we finished the cutouts for both beef and for pork on Friday. And we'll have an update a little bit later on. Let's go to the beef cutouts. On the higher side, choice up 3 cents. The selects up $2.02 and 188.68. So we narrowed that choice select spread. Over on the pork side, well, those cutouts, they were mostly higher with the exception of bellies, down 73 cents on Friday.
All right. As always, thank you very much, John.